As more states and territories reach their vaccination milestones, a stronger picture is beginning to emerge of just what Australian life might look like for the rest of the year. With 60% of New South Wales now double dosed, work sites are back to full capacity this morning and outdoor swimming pools are open to everyone. The government is putting the finishing touches to its reopening blueprint, with Gladys Berejiklian saying residents can look to plan a trip in November.
Victorians are also set for fresh freedoms on Wednesday when the state's single-dose numbers tick over 80%. And regional trials of vaccine passports are expected to begin within weeks, with hopes they could pave the way for crowds at the Melbourne Cup. Lots to talk about this morning. Dana Morse is at Flemington Racecourse for us. Dana, the Victorian government is gearing up for what they're calling this trial for a vaccinated economy. What does it mean?
Good morning, Lisa. Well, what it means is that the government is starting to look to the future and what businesses and events could look like here in Victoria once we hit those key 70 and 80% double dose targets. Now, it's hoped that we'll hit 80% first dose coverage by the middle of this week, but the government's already looking ahead to November when it's hoped that we'll hit that 80% double dose. And I'm here at Flemington, where if we hit that mark, there just could be a crowd when we hit the race that stops the nation on November 2nd. Now, what they've decided to do is trial this vaccine passport style system in 6 low-risk LGAs where they've got high vaccination rates. And what they're going to be testing is how we authenticate people are double vaxxed and who's going to be responsible for compliance in that matter. So the government's preference is that the Service Now Victoria app link up with Medicare somehow, and we understand they're still working on the back end of that, but that will make sure that your COVID-19 vaccination certificate goes into your Service Now Vic app and you scan, enter, show your 2 ticks for that. But it's who you're going to be showing those ticks to that's also a little bit of cause for concern at the moment. The government have said that they expect it won't be the most junior member of staff who might find themselves working on the door of a business. It needs to be someone who is highly trained and skilled to facilitate that situation properly. Businesses, of course, are thrilled that they're going to be able to think about reopening when we hit those targets, but they're saying they need the protection of a public health order. That means that they'll be able to legally enforce this double vaxxed situation and not have to deal with blowback in that scenario. So we'll be looking to start these trials on October 11th, and then hopefully we will see more trials pop up between that 70 and 80% double dose coverage, which we could see happening here in Victoria, and larger scale events and capacity limits.
Hey, and parts of Victoria are actually leaving lockdown today.
Yeah, Geelong and the Surf Coast have been able to take their steps out of lockdown this morning, which is quite interesting because Geelong recorded 6 new cases yesterday. We've previously seen that the chief health officers have liked to get LGAs back down to a solid 0 before releasing them from that lockdown situation. But that's now changed, and the Deputy Chief Health Officer, Deb Friedman, said yesterday that that's not how we're dealing with this virus anymore. So Geelong and the Surf Coast have snapped back to the same restrictions as the rest of regional Victoria. Unfortunately, the Mitchell Shire couldn't join them at this point, but they'll be waiting to see how they go. And the rest of the state will be enjoying some slight relaxing of restrictions come Wednesday, when we expect we'll hit that 80% first dose coverage mark. That'll mean that we'll see 30 people allowed in outdoor dining in the regions. Some beauty services will reopen. Here in Melbourne, we'll be able to go 15 kilometres from the front door, which is great, something to look forward to. And there'll also be some personal training options that'll open up as well.
Bit of tennis too, I understand. Dana, thank you. And Lara, you're at the Ashfield Aquatic Centre. We're seeing a change in tone from state leaders on reopening. Talk us through it.
Well, the tone and the message that has been put out there by the state government in this particular context has been welcomed by a lot of the locals this morning. We had a queue of people, about 30 strong or so, waiting for the doors to get open at about 5 or 6 o'clock this morning. We've had the self-described old-timers that came here for the 6 o'clock swim. We had the more serious swimmers doing their laps at 7 o'clock, and now it's open for anyone to come down, especially for those wanting to get out of the house. Now, in terms of the check-in system, system. Vaccination status is not being checked. It's not mandated at any stage at this moment. But what we are seeing is that you do have your mandatory check-in code. We know that staff members are ensuring social distancing, and there are still several areas of this facility which have been cordoned off. So even though the pools are open, there is still some restrictions in place. We did hear one of the strongest statements from the government in terms of when interstate travel will be permitted, and it looks like we could be seeing that by the end of the year, perhaps around November, of when we're going to see those regional borders and those restrictions ease up. So that is going to be welcome news for those wanting to see loved ones or even wanting a short getaway.
Hey Lara, before you go, fun fact, very popular breakfast TV presenter learned how to swim at that pool.
Well, I think you're actually talking about Michael Rowland. It's funny that you mentioned that, actually. It's funny you mentioned that. I was just speaking to some of the old coaches down here. They said that they remember training him. They said it took him 5 years to pass stage 1.
Oh, right, OK. Tish, I swam into that one, didn't I?
Hey, Dana and Lara, always good to chat to you. Thanks for all the details and also for the trolling of Michael.